If you are returning back, you'll find a different logo. And at the outset, I would like to thank Xcode Life, uh, a personal genomics company. You know, whenever we have spoken about healthcare, doctors have been the most obvious choice, if not the only choice, you know. Uh, Xcode is a perfect example for you to know about the number of opportunities that today exist within the healthcare industry, within the bioinformatics or life sciences, and maybe other areas that our guest today is going to talk about. Today's session is enabled by Xcode. For some of you who are confused about how do you go about choosing your career, uh, Xcode brings in a fantastic option for you. They actually help you understand your aptitude based on your genetics. You know, most of us as parents or children are mostly talking about psychometric assessment. We need to understand that aptitude is, you know, when we say it gets developed by the age of 14, it has its roots in genetics, right? So we will share at the end of, you know, once you complete this session, you'll be redirected to the Xcode Live's website and go through it. If nothing else, try and understand the kind of opportunities that exist within the healthcare and life sciences industry today. It is also for you to understand why we talk about often about multidisciplinary careers. Why more and more careers are stemming out of STEM, why multidisciplinary is the key word, right? With this, I would like to move on, and for the first timers in this, you know, and it's a real pleasure having Ram with us today. Ram is a multifaceted person who's a perfect example of talent and hard work. You know, very often, Ram, we keep talking about these trends, and multiple speakers come and talk about hard work or the importance of talent and finding the right career that you want to get into, which matches with your talent. I think here is a guy today who will be a perfect role model for most of you. Ram is an entrepreneur at heart and has been driving businesses across multiple sectors and industries. He has excelled in education, banking, and now healthcare. He has this uncanny ability of being a hands-on business leader who's passionate, problem solver, and extremely compassionate. Ram is currently working as a CEO of Visitor Healthcare, an organization working in preventive healthcare. He's based in Mumbai, and today he's going to spend time with you in helping you understand what does careers in healthcare mean outside of what we traditionally look at. Over to you, Ram. Thank you so much for coming in here, and I look forward, you know, all of us look forward to your session today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Arun. Thank you for such a lovely introduction, and good evening to all the participants. So glad and happy to be with you here. And like Arun said, I mean, I myself landed in healthcare. I did not begin as a healthcare professional. I began as a management professional and landed many years back into healthcare and spent some time now. Founded a company and I'm running that company now. It's called Visitor Healthcare. We are a point of care diagnostics company. And I'm really happy at this opportunity to talk to you about careers in healthcare. I know that when you think about healthcare, what comes to your mind is that of a doctor. And given the population which is on this webinar today, I'm sure when you think about healthcare, what you think about is the NEET exam, the entrance exam that you need to prepare for to become a doctor. So look, I'm not going to talk about that because you already know it, and I'm sure you know a lot more about it than I do. So therefore, I will straight away talk to you about broader healthcare industry and what are the various career options available. But before I begin that, before I begin any of it, I would like to show you my screen, and I'll share with you a little question, which I'm sure all of you have today in your mind. When it comes to healthcare, what comes to our mind today? What do we hear these days? We hear 5 words, or rather 5 names quite a bit. You switch on a news channel, you read a newspaper, you speak to someone about the present condition in the world, and the first word that comes is epidemiologists, virologists, doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers. So I leave doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers. I'm sure all of you know what they mean. Epidemiologists are like cricket commentators. Commentators comment on cricket. Epidemiologists have an opinion on or any kind of epidemics like coronavirus infections that's going on today. Virologists study any kind of viral infections. So these are the 4 or 5 different words that we hear all the times. And I'm sure all of you know that healthcare is about doctors and you have to prepare for the entrance exam and become a doctor and that's it. But here is a little question to you, or rather a little point of view to you, that the role of a doctor in healthcare industry is exactly that of the role of an actor in a big movie. So think of the movie which just got released, right? I mean, I keep seeing advertisement of this movie Radhe by Salman Khan. Now, everyone thinks that it's a Salman Khan's movie and Salman Khan is doing everything in that movie. But mind you, Salman Khan is only acting as a hero and he is being presented on the screen beside other actors. But there is a massive contingent of people who are working behind Salman Khan to make that movie or make that life come alive on the screen. For example, the person who's writing the story, or the person who's playing the music for you in the background, or the cinematographer, or the director of the movie, or the production team. So, because movies are something that all of us are very passionate about, just like cricket, and therefore, I wanted to tell you that most of us know that there are a lot more than just the actors playing on the screen that makes a movie happen. But that exactly is the case when it comes to healthcare. A doctor is like the captain of the ship. The doctor is not the ship. And therefore, healthcare is a lot more than just the doctors. Doctors need to play the role of orchestrating the orchestra. However, there are individual musicians who still have to play their flutes, and all of them are equally important. So, this session, in my opinion, is to take you through some of those different musicians who play all the different instruments and how all of it comes together, and a doctor orchestrates the orchestra and delivers what we all want, which is good health. And at the end of this session, I would love to answer your questions. I'd love to hear some of you speak to me and ask me what can be interesting questions for me to learn from. So, before I begin telling you more about healthcare careers, I wish to share a small story with you. The story of Ajay from Jaipur. As you can see, he wears a bright smile and wears a tilak too. That's Ajay. What's his story? Ajay loves to play football, and while playing football, look what he did to himself. He fell in a pit and tore his ligament, very painful. He tore his ligament. The ligaments, the ligaments got entangled with his bones, and the first diagnosis revealed that he needed surgery. That's Ajay. Unfortunate plight for a high energy, enthusiastic boy who loved playing football. Now, at this stage, all of you might be thinking, what would happen to Ajay? What is the end of this story? Is there a twist in the tale? All right, look what happens to Ajay. Yeah, it's a very short story. Ajay recovered in a few weeks and played more football because that's what he loved to do. What I want to tell you is that who all helped Ajay recover, and who are those people? What do they do? I know what comes to your mind. There must be a doctor and there must have been a nurse or a few nurses, and they all put together something, and Ajay was back on his feet. Well, like I said, there is a lot more than one musician to run the orchestra. So we'll try and understand a little bit of that. And in the process, learn almost everything, learn almost all different kind of careers that is possible in healthcare beside being a doctor and a nurse. Why not doctor and a nurse? Because all of you know already a lot about it. And of course, you know about epidemiologists and virologists as well. Thanks to coronavirus, we all have heard these terms. So we are going to talk about all those careers beside doctors, beside nurses, besides epidemiologists, and beside virologists. I hope that's fair. If you have a question, go ahead and shoot in the Q&A section, and we'll try and answer all those questions one by one. All right, what do you see on your screen is a picture. Can some of you guess what this picture is about? What is it? If you want to type in the chat, you may, or maybe in the Q&A for the next 30 seconds. What do you think it is? Pavilion. I get an answer from Abdut Patil. Pavilion. All right, there is a pavilion in the background. All right, let me tell you what this is. This is a dugout. You all see IPL matches. So this is a dugout. There is a pavilion in the background where people can sit and watch the match. But this is a dugout where players sit, right? So let me introduce you the dugout players in the recovery journey of our little Ajay, who injured his ankle, broke his bones, and got his ligaments entangled with his bones. So he needed a complicated, sophisticated surgery to recover. And in the process of helping him do that, there was a team at work. And that team's dugout looks somewhat like this. Now take a look at the different people who helped Ajay recover well. Obviously, the first ones are the doctors and the surgeons. You know who doctors are, and you know that Ajay needed a surgery, and therefore someone needed to perform a surgery to help him recover. And of course, when you do a surgery, you need help of nurses. So doctors, surgeons, and nurses, I'm not going to spend much time about, because I'm sure all of you know quite a lot about them. Look at the third professional, Xray Technician. Now, very important, how did one know that Ajay has broken his legs, or his ankle to be more precise, or his ligaments have got torn and they have got entangled with the bones? The first thing they did was to do an X-ray. An X-ray is performed by an X-ray technician, and the report is studied by a doctor. And when you do an X-ray of this nature, where the bones have got broken and entangled with the ligaments, then X-ray is not conclusive enough. So what do? You do an MRI scan, you do a CT scan. These are advanced imaging technologies. I have not written them here because some of you who are interested, they will learn about it on their own. Important to note is the fourth one, the radiologists. So what an X-ray does not capture, an advanced imaging machine does, and the person who interprets reports of those advanced machines is a radiologist. A radiologist also is a doctor. However, it's that branch of medicine which does not meet patients or treat them. It just looks at images. Imagine, the job of a radiologist is to keep looking at the images throughout the day. Images of skull, images of bone, images of foot. I don't know if it's a happy job, but the job is to keep looking at the images throughout the day and become such an expert that by looking at the image, you could say that what has gone wrong and what can be done to get it right. And thereby, a surgeon plays the role of a script writer to the surgeon, exactly the way the script writer is playing the role of orchestrating what the character will play in the movie Radhe. So similarly, here, the radiologist is able to provide a guidance to the surgeon that, hey, look, this is where the bones are broken, and this is how it is entangled with the ligaments, and this is the kind of surgery that you need to perform. That's your radiologist. The fifth role is that of a phlebotomist. What does a phlebotomist do? A phlebotomist draws the blood from your body for it to be processed. Now look, in case of Ajay, the X-ray revealed that the bones are indeed broken. The MRI, advanced imaging, revealed, and with the help of a radiologist, that his ligaments have got impacted as well. They've got entangled with the bones. Now, before performing a surgery, the doctors wanted to know that whether his blood tests are fine, whether his health parameters are fine, whether his blood sugar levels, blood pressure levels, everything the way it is supposed to be, his calcium levels, everything is in order. And in order to test for all of those, they needed a little bit of a 5 ml sample of blood from Ajay's body. And who would do that job? That is the job done by a phlebotomist. A phlebotomist is trained to inject a syringe, a needle, and then pull out blood, at least 5 ml, so that the lab technician, the one which comes next to phlebotomist, is able to run a battery of tests using high-end devices and then share the results with the doctor. And based on the results, the doctor will decide how to do the surgery. So doctor and surgeon, doctor or the surgeon, the first one on the list are definitely the people who are going to play the role of the hero, but they will need help from the nurse, they will need help from the X-ray technician, they will need help from the radiologist, they'll need help from the phlebotomist, they'll need help from the lab technician. And mind you, the job of a surgeon might be to operate on 4 surgeries in a day. But the role of a phlebotomist is not just 4, it could be 400 in a day. So therefore, one phlebotomist can impact hundreds of people's life on a daily basis. All of these roles are extremely critical. The 7th one on the list is that of a pathologist. What does a pathologist do? The pathologist reports the pathology findings. Pathology studies the body fluid, blood reports in this case, and reports to the doctor that this is right with Ajay and this is not so right with Ajay. And that helps the surgeon, the doctor, decide the line of treatment. Some of you have asked me a question in the Q&A about various branches of healthcare, and microbiologist, which comes on the 8th, is somewhat related to that. So what is the role of a microbiologist? What does a microbiologist do? A microbiologist studies the microbiology and reports. All of us, our human bodies are made of microbiological elements. You already know this. A microbiologist studies this and reveals what kind of infection or what is the propensity of infection, and based on which, again, doctors can do the treatment. Assume that all of this was done in case of Ajay and his surgery was performed. Now he needs medicines because he's under tremendous pain. The open wounds that he has needs to heal, and for that he needs medicine. Who makes medicine? Pharmacist. So there are pharmacists operating in multiple medical pharmacy factories and making medicines. That's your pharmacist role. You all have heard about the course called B Pharma and M Pharma. That's your number 9. Number 10, bioinformatics engineer. Very, very important role this individual plays in the journey in the recovery of Ajay and many others like him. What does a bioinformatics engineer do? Of course, a bioinformatics engineer studies bioinformation and brings out insightful meaning of that data. So the bioinformatics engineer will look at the measurement of Ajay's bones, how it should have been and where it is. What are the problems? What can be done so that the doctor's surgery will be successful? Is there any kind of implant that is required? Can there be an implant which can be put inside Ajay's ankle, and as Ajay grows in age and stage, 6 months to 1 year, the material that this implant is made of dissolves in his bloodstream and a new bone automatically forms. These are called regenerative implants. Now, who designs these regenerative implants? The bioinformatics engineer. Number 11, you see biomedical engineer. What does a biomedical engineer do? The biomedical engineer builds and manages all different medical devices. The device which is going to do the test, the blood test for Ajay and find parameters, something that the pathologist, lab technician, and microbiologist, point number 6, 7, and 8, those three team members are going to use. They are going to draw the blood, the phlebotomist is going to draw the blood, the lab technician is going to run the test, the pathologist is going to report pathology, the microbiologist is going to study the microbiology, but then the machine that they're going to use is made and managed by biotechnology engineer. The X-ray machine that the X-ray technician, the radiologist, CT machine, and the MRI machine that they used, all of that is developed and managed by biotechnology engineer. So you have your team up to point number 12 fully covered. The next is design engineer. Very important role. The design engineers are not just people who design glasses, the glass specs that I'm wearing, or this device that I'm using, or the laptop that you're using, or various other things that you see. Design engineers are also important people who help design various medical instruments, including implants. So let's say a small little regenerative implant that is being used in the ankle of Ajay, who's going to design it? And that design engineer needs to be a specialist of designing healthcare designs. The person who designs shoes, the person who designs microphones may not be the person who's going to design healthcare instruments. So it's a specialized field. You know, there is an institute called Indian Institute of Design. It's in Ahmedabad. There is a very small branch in Indian Institute of Design which specializes in designing medical instruments. IIT Bombay runs a program in designing of medical instruments. One of the most important field. One design, one invention can change the lives of thousands and millions of people all over the world. How important this role is, but remains in the background, remains in the dugout, never goes out in the field to play, like the doctors and the nurses, but still a very important job. And not just a very important job, a highly paid one too. Software programmers, all of us know here who are the software programmers, the coders, so to speak of, but any average coder is not a healthcare coder. The person who needs to design software for healthcare systems, or the person who needs to write programming for a healthcare enterprise software is very different and very differently trained. In healthcare, IT is very important. You would have heard about a term called HIMSS, Healthcare Information Management System, or Hospital Information Management Systems, or LIMS, Lab Information Management Systems. All of these information management systems are very different from any other software. So the person who needs to write the software program and design software for healthcare enterprises or healthcare usages are very different and very sophisticated skill. Say, for example, some of you may have old grandparents at home, and they might be monitoring their blood sugar levels every day almost by using what is called glucometer. There is a small little strip that they punches into the tip of their fingers and draw a droplet of blood. And the moment they put that droplet of blood into a device called glucometer, it shows a reading. Now imagine the software programmer who designed the software which is able to interpret the report from a drop of a blood, which is basically a chemical reaction, and report it to you in the digital format on a small screen. Now that software programmer has a very, very special skill. And imagine that skill has so much of utility. So therefore, a software programmer for healthcare is a specialized skill. And there are people who are required in that field, and it's a very, very highly paid field as well. You have an usual HTML coder. Now in Ajay's journey, once Ajay's mom found out that he has broken his ankle, then she must have gone on some website of some healthcare company and tried to find out the right hospital, the right surgeon, the right treatment for him. All of that required some HTML coder to put together an HTML website. For example, the one who designs Practo's website. So again, the skill here is highly sophisticated. Some amount of transferability of skill is possible. For example, the person who designs a website for a healthcare organization can also design a website for a fashion magazine. However, they are not so easily transferable skills. One requires a lot of training and understanding. So it's not just software programmer who needs to be different and specially trained for healthcare. Also, the HTML coders have to be especially trained for healthcare. After the surgery was performed, the doctors advised our Ajay's mom that, hey, why don't we do genetic test for Ajay and identify that genetically is he strong enough, or are his bones strong enough to recover quickly, or is his body going to suit a certain kind of diet, or does he require a specialized diet? Because you know that everything that we do in our life, how we speak, how we look, color of our eyes, color of our hair, what kind of careers we choose, everything depends on our genetic structure. Everything is coded. It's the greatest software code is human genome, right? So the surgeon advises Ajay's mother, then can we get a nice genetic report done for Ajay? And we'll use that genetic report to identify what line of treatment, what kind of medicine, what kind of food we should give Ajay so that he recovers faster. And therefore, the person who helps interpret or person who helps perform those tests are called gene scientists and healthcare statisticians. That's your point number 17. The statisticians who are specially trained to interpret healthcare data. And the person who helps explain the meaning of these are your genetic counselors. A related yet highly specialized professional, data scientists. Data scientists are, are people in extremely good position today. The world needs them more than any other skill for that matter. And data scientists for specialized skills are in very high demand. For example, the person who is able to interpret the GPS data and is able to draw a meaning out of that is very differently skilled than the person who is interpreting the data of healthcare and is able to report that what should be done and what should not be done. So as we speak, there are thousands and thousands of terabytes of healthcare data that is being generated all over the world. And there are great data scientists who are studying that data all the time and deciding that which medicine to administer at what time of the day, before food or after food, in what dosage, 5 ml, 15 ml, 20 ml, what should we do so that the response is better? How do they do that? By comparing reports. So they study the pattern of customers or patients who got that medicine in 5 ml in the morning, compare it to those people who got it in the afternoon at and 10 mg, and then they compare all of these and they identify what is right and what is not right. These are data scientists, and the use of data scientists in healthcare is paramount, and therefore the demand for data scientists in healthcare is extremely high, and they are highly paid professionals. You have some great data science companies from India, company like Fractal Data Analytics based out of Bombay, or companies like InMobi based out of Bangalore. These are some of the very highly successful data science companies from India, and many of them have a very strong healthcare data science practice. In fact, Mu Sigma, a company from Bangalore, a unicorn from Bangalore, which is one of the largest data sciences companies in the world, almost earns 50% of its revenues from data sciences in healthcare. Again, an amazing field. And who are the people who play this role? The people who have mathematics education or people who have statistics education, not necessarily engineers and doctors. And these are the people playing great role as data scientists. All right, point number 19 is nutritionists. This is the person who helps identify the right diet for a person. And in case of our Ajay, the nutritionist plays a very important role because Ajay is a sports person and his diet will help him recover fast and recover well. Point number 20, physiotherapist, the person who helps you gain the strength back in your bones, recover from the surgery well enough. The chiropractor is like a doctor who is a specialist of your muscles and bones and helps you strengthen them doing specific exercises. And because our Ajay fell on the ground with heavy impact, he must have taken some hitting on his teeth as well. So there was a need for a dentist to examine his tooth and see everything is all right. An optometrist who had to also ensure that Ajay's eyesight is perfectly fine and that impact of injury did not have any impact on his eyesight and everything was found good. But then you need an optometrist to be able to do that. And then an audiologist, because if you fall on the ground, you must have taken a hit on your eardrums as well. So how is he listening? How is his listening capabilities? And an optometrist and an audiologist, they are not really doctors. They are technical people who have specialized knowledge about their respective fields. That's your dugout. This is the team which work together, all these 24 people and maybe more. All of these people work together to make sure that our Ajay is back on his feet to play football all over again. Now that you've taken a look at the dugout, I want you to take a look at the support team. Like you know, in Formula One, Michael Schumacher used to take the car out, and now Lewis Hamilton wins the Grand Prix, but he just drives. What about the others who change the tires so quickly? The pit stop team, the support team, equally important. In healthcare, this is the crucial team. The background boys, the polymer engineer, the ones who are designing what implant to put in, what kind of crepe bandage to make, the 3D printing expert. These guys are printing exactly what you need inside your body using a 3D printing machine. The metallurgists, the guys who understand every single metal and how it is going to react to the bones and the tissues of your body. The nanotechnology engineer, who are going to design the small little particles which goes inside your body and the body doesn't have any problems. And Ajay recovered and got back on his feet. The sanitation professionals who ensure that every single place is completely infection free, including the surgical room. The electrical engineers who ensure that the surgery room is so well lit that the doctors don't have any problem looking at small nanoparticles. The food technology expert, the cryogenic engineers who ensure that the temperature levels are maintained all across throughout the system, not just in the operation theater and the room where Ajay is lying down and recovering, but throughout the entire facility. The chartered accountants, the ones who manage the accounting for the hospital where Ajay was treated, they also again have to learn different rules which are applicable for healthcare. So a chartered accountant who is a specialist on healthcare accounting definitely has to learn a lot many things about healthcare than any other average chartered accountant. And therefore, even chartered accountants are required with specialized knowledge of healthcare rules and regulations to be able to add value to healthcare ecosystem. The gym instructors who helped our Ajay get his strength back and get his fitness back and get back to the football field. The fitness equipment designers, the guys who design how your fitness equipment should look like, what should be the kind of devices that he should use, and what should be the height, width, weight of that. And finally, people like me, the MBAs, the business administrators, the ones who have to put together all of them together, the doctor, the nurses, the biomedical engineers, the instrumentalists, the instructors, the polymer engineers, everyone together to make it happen so that ultimately Ajay is served well. And finally, he is back to doing what he loves the most, which is playing football. These are the different careers which are possible in healthcare. You already learned 24 of them here as dugout and 13 of them here as the pitch stop team. So a total of 24 plus 13, 37 different careers, which includes one doctor, two nurse. So 35 different careers beside nurses and doctors possible in healthcare and many, many more. These 35 straight away comes to your mind. I would end my section of talking to you by introducing to you something which came about just 2 days back on May the 12th, given the current situation of the world where everyone is realizing the importance of data, information technology, and healthcare. So there are doctors, there are engineers, there are IT experts. So IIT Bombay has thought of introducing a dual degree program. That means BTech and MTech. You can do a BTech and MTech in healthcare informatics. If you do this course, you learn as much that a doctor learns about healthcare system, may not be surgeries, but about healthcare systems. You learn programming, obviously you learn technology, you learn engineering. Ultimately, you have healthcare informatics knowledge, and anyone who completes this is going to be extremely high in demand. This is just an example to tell you that there are so many offbeat careers possible. And mind you, they're not really offbeat, they are mainstream. Remember, think of doctor as the actor who plays the role. And there is a huge battery of pit stop team which makes that happen and makes that surgery and treatment successful. Thank you. I look forward to